Hi guys, it's Mary McIntyre here. In this video we're talking about the Perseids Meteor Shower 2025, what the meteor shower is, how to observe it, how to photograph it. So loads to get through, so let's get started. Okay, so I'm off to one side so I can put pictures up on the side here. So first of all, what is a meteor shower? Every so often we get a periodic comet that comes into the inner solar system and back out again, and as comets get near the sun they give off gas and dust and leave a trail of debris behind, and when Earth passes through that debris stream we get a meteor shower. So meteors can occur any night of the year. You usually get between 2 or 3 an hour if you're just out on a normal night without any showers going on, but during the times of a meteor shower you get more meteors, and the Perseids is one of the most prolific that we have within the calendar. So the comet responsible for the Perseids meteor shower is comet 109P Swift-Tuttle. So it's a well established shower. The debris stream is very spread out. When a comet first comes in, the debris stream is quite condensed, but this one, the debris stream has been there a really long time, so that means that the Perseids is actually active for quite a long time, from the 17th of July through to the 24th of August. But there are a couple of nights where the rates of meteors will be much higher, usually. Not so much this year, but I'll talk about that in a second. But basically when we get towards the peak you will start to see more and more meteors. So the zenith hourly rate of a meteor shower is a theoretical number that assumes the radiant of the meteor shower is directly overhead. So first of all, what is a radiant? If you track back every Perseid meteor, the trail will appear to converge at a point within the constellation Perseus. It's a purely line of sight effect, and that is why the Perseids is called the Perseids, because the radiant is within that constellation boundary. The Geminids, the radiant is within Gemini. So as I said, this is purely a line of sight effect, but the higher the radiant is, the more meteors you can theoretically see. So if you've got a radiant that is hugging the horizon, straight away you're only going to see half of that theoretical number. As a visual observer you can only see really about a third to a half of the sky at once. You can't see what's going on behind your head. Also, sky conditions are really important. The zenith hourly rate assumes perfect sky conditions, no light pollution, no haze, no moonlight. So once you start to account for all of those things, this zenith hourly rate of 150, on a really good year for the Perseids, visually you may see between 20 and 30 an hour. But this year, unfortunately, we're going to be plagued by a gibbous moon, which is going to mean that the number that you see visually will be much lower. So it doesn't mean don't go out and observe it. All meteor showers are worth observing, but the press are going to start using the zenith hourly rate and then just add zeros onto it. There was a minor shower that peaked last week. I genuinely saw an article that said 1,000 meteors per hour. There is no meteor shower in our calendar that will produce that many meteors. It's just not a thing. So the press love to inflate that number. So if you do see numbers of 150 an hour, that is not what you're going to see. So do keep that in mind. Now the peak of the Perseids this year is on overnight on the 12th, 13th, but it's worth observing like the night of the 10th, 11th, 11th, 12th, 12th, 13th. All of those nights you can get a really good show. But do remember that we're going to be plagued by moonlight this year. So the gibbous moon is going to be rising on the 12th by kind of 9:30. So if you look south, you're going to be staring at a bright moon, and that is going to affect your night vision. So really you're better off looking over in the west or in the north. Now I said that the radiant of the meteor shower is in Perseus, but that's not necessarily where you want to look to observe the meteor shower. Meteors can appear absolutely anywhere in the sky, and in fact if you're looking at the radiant you are going to get meteors that usually are a bit fainter and have shorter tracks, and they certainly don't make as nice a photograph. If you look at this picture here, this is from our meteor cameras and it's showing every single Perseid over 3 nights of the peak in 2022 from all 4 of our meteor cameras all combined into one image. So you can see the meteors in this photograph are appearing to radiate from a particular point that is in Perseus. All the trails are really short near there, but the brighter, longer trail meteors that are easier to see are much further out. So for where I live, the northern sky is not actually too bad, the north and west sky. That is far enough away from where the moon is going to be in the sky to make it a little bit easier. So hopefully where you live, you don't have a massive city to the north of you. If you do, it would be worth just driving somewhere to kind of get out of town. So to observe meteors visually, let your eyes get dark adapted, sit in a comfortable chair, don't crane your neck for hours on end, get a recliner in the garden and just lie back and enjoy it. If you do want to record stuff, just have a pad, and what we do is use our village church clock, and every time the church clock strikes the hour, we turn the page over on the pad. Every time we see a meteor, we just do a pencil line on the page without even looking, so that way our eyes never leave the sky. We're not kind of recording tons of information if we don't want to, we're just keeping a count. We tend to work together, my husband and I sat facing different directions, so we're covering more of the sky. But you can see quite a lot of nice meteors, and some of them may leave a persistent meteor train afterwards, the ionization trail, so it's definitely still worth observing even though you do have moonlight. Not all meteors that you see will actually be Perseids. The Kappa Cygnids is still active, and we also have the background sporadic meteors that don't belong to a shower. So if you do see a meteor, just try to keep in mind where the radiant is and look, will that trail, if we extend it in that direction that it came from, end up in the radiant area. That way you'll know for sure whether or not you've caught a Perseid. The other thing to remember as well is if you see a particularly bright event and you report it, either through the SPA or the BAA, remember that meteors are moving incredibly fast. The Perseids are actually moving at 58.8 kilometers per second, so they're moving very, very quickly. But they're also burning up at around about 80 to 100 kilometers high. So that means if there's a meteor that has a track that goes across the Midlands of the UK, if I'm in Oxfordshire and I see it, it's going to be in my northern sky. But if you're in Scotland and you see it, it's going to be in your southern sky. So basically sending in a fireball report saying the meteor moved through the plough or moved through Hercules is not overly helpful unless you tell people exactly where you were standing when you saw it. And also remember that meteors you see that are near to the horizon are the ones that are the furthest away. The meteor that is the closest to you is the one that is directly overhead. So when you are recording, do remember to include where you were, what direction from a compass point perspective you saw the meteor. Was it moving north south? Was it moving east to west? How high above the horizon was it? And remember to include your location. That will give the best amount of information to the meteor scientists to try to link it with what the meteor cameras are picking up. So do remember that if two people in different parts of the country can see the same meteor, it will be in a totally different part of the sky. So how to photograph meteors. Generally I would have my camera set for a dark sky, and I actually personally prefer to use shorter exposures. I'll talk about the pros and cons of that in a second, but camera wise I have an 13-year-old Canon 1100D. I've got 3 of them. I have found just through trial and error that the 18mm lens, the 18 to 55mm lens, is the best for meteors. The wide angle lens that I have basically only picks up the very, very bright ones, and even then it's quite small on the field of view when you've got a wide angle. The 50mm lens doesn't really give you enough sky, so you're reducing your chances of capturing it. I found that the 18mm is the sweet spot. So I know that the kit lens that comes with the camera is not the best quality, but it's still the one that I found is best for meteor photographing. So that's what I use, and I usually would have my camera set at like ISO 1600 because my skies are dark enough to allow for that. But already last night, at the time of filming this video, I have had to change the ISO to 800 to account for the moonlight. By the time we get towards the peak and the full moon, it'll probably have to be ISO 400 just from experience. That doesn't mean you're not going to capture meteors though. I've caught meteors with no moon, and I've caught meteors on a full moon, and if I put these pictures up here on screen now, you can see that in some ways actually the moonlight picture is more interesting compositionally wise, because you can kind of see a bit of the foreground because the moon is illuminating it and the sky is brighter. So in some ways that particular fireball looked better than the one that I got from Wales where the sky was pitch black. So it doesn't mean you can't photograph them, it just means the moonlight will wash out the fainter ones. In terms of hit rate, if you are doing shorter exposures, which are necessary when there's moonlight, somewhere around 10 to 13 seconds is what I've been doing this week, the time it takes for that image to write to the card is a few seconds that may be an event that you miss. So the shorter your exposures, the more imaging time is lost per hour. That said, when we've got a bright moon, we have no choice. It's that or basically have a completely washed out sky with no meteors at all. But the other advantage of the slightly shorter exposures is if there is an ionization trail, you've got more chance of capturing the way that that kind of evolves over time. If you do a 30-second shot, you get a fireball at the beginning of it. The ionization trail can often be dissipated already by the time you get to the end of your shot. So I actually prefer shorter exposures for that point of view, because it does mean you get the ionization cloud. So I'll pop a video in now showing you an ionization cloud so you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like a smoke trail that's left behind by the meteor. So basically, to photograph the Perseids this year, I would recommend around about ISO 400, probably around 8 to 10 second shots, depending on the brightness of your sky locally. You may have to go shorter than that. Not ideal, but that's kind of, it's always trying to hedge your bets on your local sky conditions versus moonlight, etc. I also have the camera set to continuous. I have it on a tripod and I use a remote shutter cable. With the camera set on continuous, you can lock the shutter cable and walk away. The camera will keep taking pictures the whole time. If you have got a mains power cable, that's great. You can run from dusk till dawn and not touch the camera at all. If you're doing that, you will also need a dew band. If you don't have a dew band, a sock and some old hand warmers will do a brilliant job of keeping it for a couple of hours. I was still getting fogged up last night after about an hour and a half, so you will need to switch out the hand warmers or just babysit it and hit it with a warm hairdryer every now and again to get rid of the dew. I'm basically shooting on continuous and for as long as the battery will go, to be honest with you. And just to give you an example, we're not at the peak yet, but this week pretty much every night, you'll have seen the videos if you're a subscriber, I've been imaging from pretty much dusk till dawn nearly every night this week, and out of between 700 and 1,000 pictures a night, I've probably caught 2 meteors per night. So the hit rate's not great, but we're not at the peak yet, so that will improve with time. So you're going to have a lot of pictures that don't have meteors in. You're going to potentially have pictures where you're not sure whether it's a meteor or a satellite. So the way that you can test for that is to look at the shots before and after the event. This picture here caught me out. I thought this was a meteor at first, but if I just flick through the other pictures either side, you can see that that trail extends out over 3 or 4 shots. Meteors don't generally last that long, so that's usually a sign that it's a satellite. Also, there's just something about the profile. If you get a satellite flare, it's too symmetrical. Meteors don't burn out evenly the way that they brighten, so that's usually a clue. If everything's too symmetrical and perfectly white and uniform, that's generally a satellite flare rather than a meteor. But generally, flicking through the shots just to see whether it's moving across multiple shots, that will tell you whether it's a satellite or not. If you don't get very many meteors in your photographs, don't worry. There's loads you can still do with those pictures. I did a video on this a couple of years ago. I'll try to link a card up here for you. But basically, out of those pictures, you can create an overnight time lapse. You can create a star trails photograph. You can create a star trails video using star stacks and cumulative files. And if you are pointing somewhere where the Milky Way is in shot, then you can stack some on the Milky Way as well. So there's absolutely loads of things you can do with those images, even if there are no meteors in them. So I don't really see it as a waste of time. Yes, you're going to fill up memory cards fast, you're going to fill up hard drives fast, but I love seeing night sky time lapses, and I love seeing star trails time lapses. I love star trails. I'll never get bored of them. So there's always something that you can do with those images as long as the camera's being kept pretty still. So just to finish off, I want to talk about the Meteor camera networks. We have 4 Global Meteor Network cameras that are also contributing to the UK Meteor Network, and they can detect stuff that the eye can't see very easily. So even in moonlight, they are detecting significantly more meteors than my eyes will see, and certainly my digital SLR can see. And the reason for that is, first of all, they're more sensitive. They are a night vision camera that are capturing dark things. That's what they're designed to do. But as well as that, they've got the infrared block filter removed, so they're actually seeing through any thin cloud that's there. So they've got a kind of wider light range essentially, so they are picking up things that we just can't see. Even as an experienced meteor shower observer, there are very few meteors that are fainter than mag 3 that I know that my eyes would be able to see. My fading eyesight as I get older, whereas the meteor cameras are picking up everything from mag 6 onwards, so they are picking up significantly more meteors. It's interesting to compare the photograph with a digital SLR of the same meteor that the meteor cameras have captured. It's really interesting because the meteor cameras have this bright bulbous streak across the screen, and I get this tiny little wisp with a hint of green on the tail. That's it. So it's really interesting to compare the two. So while I do share a lot of our meteor camera all-night stacks and the monthly cumulative stacks, it makes it look like the sky is literally full of meteors. Please do keep in mind that when those of us with meteor cameras are sharing that, we're not trying to imply that that's what you're going to see visually, because you are not going to see that visually. But they are amazing, and the data archive for the UK Meteor Network is phenomenal. By kind of mid-morning the following day, if you saw a bright meteor or caught it on camera, you can go and search the archive and it'll pull up that event, and you can then look at the data of it. So you can see which cameras were involved. You can see a ground track like this one that shows you where the meteor actually was in space, which cameras got it, which shower it belonged to, how fast it was going, tons of other information that is gleaned from all of these cameras triangulating when they catch the same event. And at this time of year, we are getting around about 1,000 a night potential matches already. So when we get to the peak of the Perseids, there can often be 1,000 meteors per camera in our garden. Obviously, I'm lucky if I get 6 on camera. We probably won't get 1,000 a night this year because of the moonlight, but I just can't emphasize enough, the meteor cameras are not a representation of what you'll see visually. That doesn't mean that it's not an awesome thing to go out and observe, and actually even if there isn't really much to see, it's an important observation. So I always urge people to submit their meteor photographs and their meteor counts and any observations that you've made to the Society for Popular Astronomy and the British Astronomical Association, because sometimes it's really useful to see a no-show to help model the debris field. So if you don't see anything at all, it could be an interesting effect that means the Perseids peak has become offset this year for some reason. So do go out and have a look. Let your eyes get dark adapted. Try to keep your phone away, because even on minimum brightness, your phone screen is going to wreck your night vision. Try to keep a track of what you're seeing if you feel up to doing that. If you've got any kind of camera that's capable of doing continuous exposures, stick it out, have a look. If you've got an iPhone, you can use the Nightcap app to just capture all night long individual frames, and that will pick up meteors. There are similar apps for Android phones that can do the same thing. So there's loads of things that you can do, and when you search the archive, you may be able to find more actual scientific data about any images that you've captured. So I hope that summarises everything, and this is a really long video. I didn't intend for it to be this long, but hopefully you found something in this video that was helpful. If there's anything that you find in this video that you want to share with your local society or your local community to encourage people to go out and observe the Perseids, please feel free. I make these videos to help people, so share away. Feel free to just share it with whoever. So good luck, and keep watching my channel to see all of the star trails and night sky time lapses that I'm producing this year, and I will start including some meteor camera stuff as we get towards the peak. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.